The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 9th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collector station. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard those, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she was saying to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well." Jesus turned and seeing her said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well from that moment. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout all of that district. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Today is a rare occasion. I've been ordained for just under 12 years, and I have never preached on this particular lectionary day. That's surprising. We are in a 3-year cycle, so you would think I would have preached on this at least 4 times by now. But sometimes it's because Easter is late enough in the year that this Sunday gets skipped because it's Holy Trinity or Pentecost. 3 years ago, I was at Synod Assembly, so I don't know, maybe Rick was preaching that day. But it's a little exciting when that happens. It's like I have a completely blank slate with no prior sermon baggage attached to it. So as I was going through these readings, I noticed that there's a theme that comes up in the gospel account. There's really 4 distinct encounters, beginning with a call story. This is pretty appropriate, as I pointed out last week, that the next 2 months, this month and July, really invite us to think about discipleship in the gospel readings. Now, I have not gone through, I did not pull out my gospel parallels to try to figure out if this is true, but I think that the disciple Matthew's call story that we heard this morning may be the shortest one that we get. It might be the shortest. If it's not the shortest, then it's tied. There might be 2 people who have it this short. Jesus is walking by, sees him at the tax collecting station, and just says, "Follow me." One statement, one invitation, and Matthew gets up, doesn't even say anything, leaves what he has behind, and follows Jesus. That's the first encounter. Then this is immediately followed by Jesus eating dinner with tax collectors and sinners, and the Pharisees questioning his actions. And Jesus says, I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinners. Then, third encounter, another religious leader shows up and begs Jesus to come and raise his daughter. So while he's on his way, so we pause the third, we start the fourth. While he's on his way, a woman who has been bleeding for 12 years touches his cloak, and Jesus declares that her faith has made her well. And then we press unpause on number 3, when Jesus finishes his walk and proclaims that the daughter is not dead, but sleeping. That's a lot. That's 4 little vignettes crammed into 13 verses. And 3 of them make a similar point. Matthew, the tax collector turned disciple. Jesus coming for sinners, not the righteous. The woman made unclean by her bleeding, but coming to Jesus anyway. These stories make one point plain. We don't need to be perfect. We don't need to meet some invisible or impossible to achieve standard to get to Jesus. Our discipleship, our choosing to follow Jesus, is not contingent on us already having it all figured out. And so what does that mean for us? It means that we're encouraged to follow Jesus without having it all figured out. Living lives of discipleship as we bump and struggle along, doing our best to seek God's will for us and the world around us. We don't need to wait until we feel good enough, ready enough, Christian enough, holy enough to embrace our own discipleship. And we are asked to guard ourselves against two very common pitfalls. The first is letting perfection be the enemy of the good. I can be guilty of this, seeking perfection, getting so caught up in whether or not something is done the exact right way or done in the way that we would do it, which really is the same thing, right? My way is the right way. We get so caught up in that we ignore the fact that something got done in the first place. A silly example of this probably happens in your home, either in your home now or as you were growing up. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Someone else offers to do a chore that you normally do, like loading the dishwasher. You look at the loaded dishwasher, and it looks nothing like how you would have loaded it. They loaded it wrong. They did. And yet, did the dishes still get clean? Yes, they did. When we try something new, when we are learning and growing, we will make mistakes. We will do things incorrectly, imperfectly, but just as we would not tell a kindergartner that they are not allowed to write anymore because they drew the letter B backwards, God does not tell us to disengage from ministry when we get mixed up. Discipleship is not about flipping a switch and all of a sudden being a perfect Christian, whatever that means. It's about seeking out God, striving to follow Jesus, attempting to live in a way that ushers in the reign of God, doing our best every day to do what God calls us to do, to feed people, to seek justice, to care for the earth, to provide for others, to love our neighbor. Which leads us to the other pitfall. Can we even picture a world in which all that happens? The feeding, the caring, the justice, the love. Can we envision where God is leading us without knowing exactly how we'll get there? In other words, it's easy to get stuck in the current reality where we can't see the way forward. But if we believe that God makes all things new, if we believe that the reign of God will be justice and peace and without hunger and need, if we believe that, can we live into that vision and start working towards it without having a roadmap for how to get there? The obstacles are huge. There are systemic issues of injustice. There are cultural issues of prejudice and conflict, environmental issues that stem from our human actions and are causing real harm here and now. Our individual and corporate sinfulness that keeps us acting in our own self-interest instead of focusing on our communal identities. But if we have the vision, that's a place to start. It gives hope to sustain us. It gives us something to hold on to. A colleague of mine likes to say, provision follows vision. In her ministry, she has seen time and time again this to be true. There is a vision in her community about what they want to do, who they want to be for the people around them. They know that it will take money and resources, which they have very little of. But they have the vision for where they want to go and who they want to be. And more than once, these vision conversations have been followed by a run-in, a meeting with a neighbor, a connection at a community event, which has opened the doors to get to that vision. She has seen grants come through, monetary gifts directed to that ministry, volunteers to step up and make things happen. Just this week, she shared another example. Her congregation saw the food insecurity in their neighborhood and knew that even though there were food pantries and food banks, sometimes people needed food when those weren't open. They knew they wanted to be part of the solution. As they vocalized this vision of being able to feed their community, a donation came through, a small outdoor shed with shelves. And another member, seeing now the small outdoor shed and knowing the vision, said, well, we can fill that up. And so today, Scott United Methodist Church in Indianapolis, Indiana, is blessing a huge pile of food in their worship service. They are blessing it and thanking God for it, and then they are going to take it and put it into that small outdoor shed so that it can be a 24/7 food pantry for their neighborhood and feed their community. They knew that they wanted to feed people before they knew what that feeding would entail. They had no idea what they were going to do. They just knew they wanted to feed people. They knew the vision before they knew how it was going to come about. Because provision follows vision. God comes through. Our inability to see, towards the end of the road, or even to see most of the map, doesn't mean that we can't take a first step. In discipleship, it is so often just about doing the next right thing. What do people need? What can we provide? How can we be the hands and feet of Christ in this desperate, hurting world? And so we work to avoid both of these pitfalls. And when we find that middle ground, we thrive in our discipleship. We push against our inclinations to be perfect, and we let ourselves embrace the imperfect way we engage in God's mission. And we work towards a future, God's future, that we envision long before we know exactly how we're going to get there. We know where God is leading us. We know that God will be with us every step of the way. And we know that God is ready for our enthusiasm and passion and participation in whatever way that shows up. Even as a tax collector who leaves it all behind, or as an outcast woman who bravely takes her chance because her faith is well placed, or as a man who pleads to have his daughter back. After all, Jesus came for us, not those who are in no need of help. Jesus came for us. Amen.
Amen.